how do we want to start this thing? Because the way it's starting now is not very interesting or eventful, really. Not to mention it's a little glitchy. If you watch it really quick.
Yeah.
Recently, a friend of mine, he was trying to negotiate with a guy a certain price. He's there with the seller and the seller's girlfriend, and the seller keeps getting these phone calls. Oh, it's just...
So, how do we want to start this? Do we reference what's going to happen in this project video? Because the whole theme of this project video is the creative solution.
Recently, a friend of mine, he was trying to negotiate with a guy a certain price. He's there with the seller and the seller's girlfriend, and the seller keeps getting these phone calls. Oh, it's just that guy again. And she's like, oh, he keeps calling. So he knows that there's this other guy just hot on the trail, right? Oh, no. Finds out the guy's name's Steve, right? Hot on the trail. And the guy said, well, okay, I like it. Let me just sleep on it. So he leaves. Well, the next day he calls him back, and guess what? Done deal. Steve signed it up. Well, the plot thickens though, right? Because he tells me I lost it to this guy named Steve. Well, I've been in this market for a little while and I know a lot of the people in there. So he tells me that. After I kind of looked at the comp, I recognized, I'm like, this house is worth $200,000 to maybe $210,000, right? So you can pay a little bit more for the house. So what did I do? I called Steve. So I call up Steve. He's a wholesaler. He's kind of a friend of mine, but I took him to lunch. We built that friendship even more. I said, I'm very interested in the house. Will you let me know? He said, yes, he would. And I followed up with him.
Because Steve didn't have a wholesale price at the time. That was the whole key.
Hey, you know what you're doing with that?
He didn't have a wholesale price for that. Because I knew that he was primarily a wholesaler.
Because it was so fresh, right? I mean, you found out about it like that day, didn't you?
I found out that day, and it was so fresh in his inventory, he wasn't quite sure if he was going to flip it or if he was going to wholesale it. But he's not really a flipper. He's primarily a wholesaler. So I knew that he was going to wholesale it. So I was the first one. I mean, I called him.
You were like hot on his trail.
I was hot on his trail.
Yeah.
That house yet. I haven't figured that out yet. I followed up. I had relentless follow-up with him, right? Until the time where he came up and he comes to me and he says, Andy, we actually have a price on that house that we will wholesale it for this. I knew the price that I was willing to pay for that house. I knew what the repairs were. I knew what I thought it was worth. I thought it was worth about $200,000.
I thought I knew what the repairs were.
Repairs were about $30,000 or less.
What did it end up being?
So I backed
50
up and
grand.
I thought, I'm comfortable, really comfortable paying $125 for this house. Now, Steve hadn't come up with the wholesale price yet for the property, but I knew that going in my mind. I knew that for when he called. I kept following up with him. And he calls me up and he says, it makes sense for us to sell it at $135,000. I said to him, look, here's where I think it works. I said, I'm very confident it's worth $200,000. I'm pretty confident on the repairs. So I feel
Isn't that
really
hilarious? I'm pretty confident about the repairs. I feel like such a sucker right now. Every project we show, I'm like over.
So then the difference was I said 200, he said 215, what we thought it was worth when it resells. So I came up with
I'm consistently over.
Because I knew that, I was there, he had a deal he wanted to sell, I wanted to flip the deal. So I said, look, I'm comfortable at 125, you're at 135 because you feel like it's worth more on the back end. So I said, what if we do this?
The creative solution.
What if I buy the property from you at $125,000? I'm gonna put about $30,000 into it, and I wanna sell it for at least $200 or more. Of course, I wanna maximize my profit. I said, how about anything over $200,000, we do a percentage split on?
Right here?
That made sense to him.
In hindsight now, it was a brilliant creative solution, but the one variable that I should have
You've never done that before, right?
I've never done it.
Like exactly like that.
Not with a wholesaler, but in hindsight now, the biggest thing that I would figure out is I would go into Steve and I would say, but what if we spend more? Because that's a variable, right? I was insulating my profit, but I was going off of a $30,000 fix-up.
Yeah.
And that was the one piece that I didn't lock down at the time because I thought, there's no way we're going to spend more than 30 grand.
Yeah.
So I ended up spending 50. That's what set me up to have to go back later and renegotiate something because really a lot of my profits came out of that.
You had to work it out with him again.
I had to work it out again, which I was in kind of a vulnerable position because I said, here's what we're going to do. And he's like, well, that's your fault. You said it was 30 grand. That's what's going to happen. Well, that's because that's what my project manager told me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in hindsight now, I would go back and make sure if I create a situation like this, I would say, well, what if the repairs go more? And then we'd have to calculate that into that split.
Yeah.
He really believed in his 215, and if he really believes in his 215 number, then that makes sense. That's a way to do that. And I hope we sell it for 215 because I'll make more money, and he'll certainly make more money.
Just out of curiosity, with the percentage split, did you offer a percentage right off, or did you just say percentage split and then start the dialogue there?
Good question. So he asked me what I was thinking, of course, right? negotiation back and forth. So what do you think? I said, well, what do you think? And he kicked it back to me, and I said, look, frankly, I wasn't going to negotiate super hard because I didn't really care. The only thing I really cared about was getting it for 125.
You want him to just be happy doing the deal at 125.
So I can insulate my profit. Because as soon as I get that locked up, then I make a profit. I have work and I can make a profit at that. He came back with 70-30. I'm cool with 70-30. If it sells for 215, he makes that extra 10 grand. He essentially got like that 135. And I made a little more money too.
He was compassionate with it, but I told him, I said, like, I realized we didn't work this out up front. I want to be a man of my word. I want to do exactly what I said I was going to do. And we said that we're going to spend 30 on it. We ended up spending 50. But I said, that said, us spending 50 did contribute to the fact that we could sell it for more.
Yeah.
It was the market got better. We weren't in the winter time anymore, but also we spent a lot of money on it. And we did some modifications here with the kitchen and master bathroom. Yeah. And just making it nice.
And who's
finishes.
to say that isn't the reason?
That's one of the reasons. I'm sure that that was a $10,000 factor, and then the market was a $10,000 factor, and it being in the springtime was a $10,000 factor. Well, there you go. You've got more of a resale price.
Yeah.
And another $10,000 factor was the fact that we listed it for less, but he held out and saw there was a lot of activity on it, so he kind of held out and waited for somebody to pay more. So actually having him, because as the wholesaler, I'm actually let him list it so we could give him his profits through his real estate commissions. But he was doing that for free, really. He wasn't making money as an agent. He was just making his percentage split afterwards. But he was wise enough to hold off, and we actually got more money because he was a good agent on it. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. And I didn't realize you did it that way, because that saved you money in a way, too.
Totally.
It actually worked, like, his profit into your expenses.
Yep. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Which is confusing for people.
Yeah, but it's really,
we'll try to demystify that.
That's a cool little detail.
It's all going to be straight up one level. This is, I'm trying to get rid of this, see what I can do. Like, there might be a theme still, but I kind of pitched the idea of the kitchen table over here and still be space to walk. And over here. Oh, yes! Yes! Say you got a wall here, that's your bathroom, right? Yeah, that's all figured out, right? This is your bedroom. The choice is this: either we're gonna have a small funkier bathroom, or the kitchen's gonna have to come to right here. Right? Right there. So you got your sink and your dishwasher taken care of. And then your fridge. So you have on this wall, like, just more important, the kitchen and the master bathroom. That's the two most important. Yeah, those are the two most important. Okay. Let's for now, let's say me. Yeah, I want the master. I think so too, because these houses in here don't have it, so that's gonna be a real differential. And 2 thirds for the master. Yes. That right there is the money on this house.
I think that was the money on that house.
We're in the basement of that house. He was showing me kind of the progress he was going.
This is a bit random,
but a lot, and he told me this story about somebody that lives there.
I think we should keep it in.
Over here, his name's Ignacio. He has 6 cats. First week, he comes over and he's like, "Hello, Jason. I'm Ignacio. I would like to.
I love his impersonations too because they're so spot on.
Seeing me.
As he's telling me this story, imitating this neighbor, we hear this. So he goes upstairs, and I go up there, and I'm still got my phone out, and lo and behold, it's the person that he was imitating, that he was telling me the story about.
Yeah, and here's why. Because when I go downstairs to be my mother figures in my bedroom, and we try to sleep, that I just got fascinated asleep. But
Yeah.
I think he left because at that moment he noticed that I was recording him.
I like to believe that it's just that random with him all the time, though, that he's just in and out like that. Whether or not it actually is like that.
Where's that puddle? Darn this puddle. The red door. That looks really good. Look at the chalkboard. What was up with the chalkboard in there? I know, right? Are they teaching school in the front room? Those staging couches that I got for free. I know, you gotta. Come on, Jason. And the deflated staging. Look at that. Yeah. The deflated staging equipment. Just pump it up. That looked good though. It made it look like a spa. It was cool. 4 months later, here's the thing though. I knew that we bought that thing in the wintertime, and I recognized that we didn't need to jump on it and finish it up in 4 to 6 weeks. So I kind of purposely like delayed it.
Because you knew that like the holding costs like would be offset by like the time of year.
He was on another project, and I didn't want him to just try to finish it up quickly. I knew we were fine. So I think we waited 2 months before we even started on it. Because it was like, we bought it in end of December. It was like January, February, we just waited. And then March, April, we finished it up, and then we listed it. So it was kind of on purpose.
Nice. Crazy high list.
The markets that I buy in primarily, the counties I buy in primarily, I track them. What that gives me is a running total of the month's supply. It's important for me to know how hot or cold my market is, right? I need to have, that's how I have my finger on the pulse of the market. I'm looking at the numbers and I'm recognizing that we're hotter than we've been in 2 years. We are under a 3-month supply in Salt Lake County. What I can tell you right now is the market is hot.
So this is the stuff that I don't know.
2 days after the listing, an offer comes in for. What really happened here was he had it listed up, and I was on vacation, and I said, just do whatever it is you feel is right. And he said, well, there's an offer, there's a person, there's somebody looking at it, and he recognized there's a ton of activity on it. So he just kind of held off waiting. We had a full price offer, but he held off on it, which most people would just jump it and say, all right, full price offer, give it to him.
Take the money.
But he was like, wait a second, and he had a few people pitting people against each other, and lo and behold, it wasn't too easy. Like, we were getting a lot of action up front, but we ended up getting this person that just blew us out of the water with.
Like, how long had it been listed for when the offer was actually accepted?
Probably like 7 days. So it was like all this activity, and people were trying to lock it up, and he was just kind of pushing people off and holding until he had this one for $241,000 for $12,000 higher than we listed it for. So that was on him. He was playing agent of the year there, and he wasn't even getting paid as an agent.
That's smooth. Well, really. talk about incentivizing, you know, having kind of mutually benefiting incentives, right? Like the fact that he knew like he was getting a bigger check.
Absolutely. He knew he was getting a huge piece of that because everything over a certain amount. So absolutely. A normal agent would be like, whatever, I'm getting 3% of this increased purchase price. He was getting 70%. So $12,000. He's looking at this going, I'm making like an extra $8,000 with this offer. You're absolutely right.
That's smooth.
That was smooth. But it made me more money too, so I'm glad our incentives were aligned there. So we sold it for $241,000. 1% to seller paid closing costs. Generally it's 3%.
Wow. So
not only did he get $12,000 higher on the price, he negotiated them and got them to only do 1%. So it was 1%, but they also got a home warranty. So that was about $2,860, which is dirty cheap. Dirty cheap. The buyer's agent got 3%, which was $7,230. My agent on the HUD, he got paid, but we knew that that was just coming out of the portion that I owed him. Does that make sense? I'll go over that in a second. So really, I didn't have to pay my listing agent. My closing costs were like title insurance and stuff, $1,481. Property taxes for the time I owned it, for like the 5 or 6 months I owned it, were $548. So at the end of the day, my net from that was $228,881. But then I needed to pay for the wholesaler's fees. And here was the crazy thing with that. So the way we negotiated was anything over $200,000, he would get 70% of. But then I went back to him, and when we were going over the repairs the first time, I said, can we raise that at all? And this was like before we even finished all the crazy repairs that they wanted. So he said, okay, let's do it to $205.
That
so
the buyers wanted?
The buyers wanted. I mean, they had a huge inspection list we didn't even talk about. So we raised the price from the bar from $200,000 to $205. So $205,000, but we got $241. So the difference between $241 and $205 was $36,000. So he was entitled to 70% of that. So 70% of that was $25,000. $25,000 extra, which was his take on it.
On top of his, what was his wholesale fee? Do you know what his fee was?
Yeah, his wholesale fee on the front was $11,500. So for wholesale, he made $11,500 up front, and he was going to make $25,200 on the back per our agreement.
Yeah.
But he was cool enough. I went back to him and I said, "Man, we didn't spend $30. We spent $50 because of the repair requirements they wanted, and because we made it really nice for the master bathroom and all that stuff." So he was cool enough to say, "Okay, what if I kick back instead of taking $25,200?" He says, "What if I kick back about $3,500?" So at the end of the day, I ended up paying him an extra $21,790. So he made $11,500 on the front, $21,790 on the back. So a total he made $33,300 $290 on that deal. But I mean, he found a great deal. But the key was, going back to my numbers, was so I had $228,881, but paying him $21,790, reimbursing myself for the repairs, or taking the repairs out of $50,000 in repairs. I paid interest of $4,857, so little interest, and then my total purchase price was I had to send out about $125,227. So even though he made a total of $33,290, the reason I did the thing originally was I just wanted to be able to make money in my renovation company. So my total net, $27,006.
Nice.
So even though he made $33,000,
and see, that's the thing that I love. That's the thing that I love. We've talked about that before, but a lot of people would begrudge him that. Like, dude, he didn't even have to do anything, right? Like, he didn't have all that time. He didn't have the expense of the renovation and all that stuff. I love that you don't begrudge him that money, because you guys both were able to make money.
Yeah, I made 27 grand.
Like you said,
he
right?
made 33 grand. I made 27 grand. And when they say he didn't do anything, he absolutely did. Finding it as a wholesaler was awesome.
Yeah.
So he got that money. He deserved that money.
I just meant he didn't have, like, the expenses that you had.
Yeah.
He didn't have to put the money in like that. And
yeah, I mean, my project manager did the stuff. I had to put the money into it, but I still made 27 grand. And he actually earned it on the backside too, like we've talked about. As the agent,
he worked it.
He worked it, but he worked it for himself. But he worked it for me too. So he makes 33 grand. I make 27 grand. It's a good day. Happy. I'm happy. We were $10,000 apart in the front. I wanted it for $125 because I thought I could make $20,000 wholesale or flip profit. He wanted to sell it to me for $135, and I thought, well, on the front end, I'm like, I'm only gonna make 10 grand if I flip that. It's not really worth it. So the creative solution worked out well for both of us because I made 20,000 plus, and he ended up making 33. But he got the deal done because he assumed that it was worth more. I thought it was worth less. But at the end, it was a total win-win creative solution that anything over a certain amount he kept. That right there, I don't know a lot of people that do that. Maybe it has been done before, but working that way with people, business to business, wholesalers and rehabbers, can make magic happen. But my big takeaway from my takeaway is I would make sure that that one huge key variable, the repair amount, I've got something written in there that say, okay, if we go over a certain amount, that I can get compensated for that. Because that right there almost shot me in the foot. He was cool, and he allowed me to get a little bit more coming back after later, but that could have shot me in the foot big time.
Yeah.
Are we done with Whitlock? I'm done with Whitlock. Are you done with Whitlock?
I'm finished with this thing, yeah.
Me too. Let's do it. We're done with Whitlock. Next!